We are going to click on points, okay? Then we are going to look at points, but generally this time around, there are different ways we could probably create points manually. Like in case you want to create points manually, there are these other different items you can use to create points manually. But since this is going to be project-based, we are going to go to point creation tool. Point creation tool. For those that don't yet have the software installed, please, you go next to a friend that already has the software installed, then you work with them. Otherwise, you're going to be moving quite a bit faster and you won't really be able to catch up. So now, create points tool menu. If I'm to start from this side, it allows for creating points using different methods, including geometrical distances and directions, recession, even using the manual method. You can probably explore this during your free time, but the main one we're going to be looking at is we're going to look at importation of points, which is the last icon in that menu. So we're going to click on that. So we have this popping up, a palette popping up. So this is where we're importing in our file point from. The file point we're going to bring in, we add it in here. Then we go and look for that information with where I've placed that folder. So for example, here, we come to data, then we come to survey point. Now that information I've given you is in the file extension of .exe, which is the text information. And therefore we are going to, sorry? Oh, okay. Are we all on the same page though? We are going to be a little bit faster because this is preliminary designs, preliminary processes for designing. So I'm going to add. Have we all clicked on that add button? Right? Okay. Then we look for our point file, which on my side it's in the folder. I go to data on this survey data. Are we all there? Okay. I'm going to change my file extension to text, and then the points are going to be able to show up. Do you have open any of them? You can put them. So, are we all there? Okay. So I'm going to highlight all of them. I'm going to click open. .txt. Yes. Set the point style. You haven't set the point style. But if you wait for the point, you this one. Let's open one. First open the text. One text file and see. First open one. As you can see, the file extension is the text file. You've seen it? Let's open it. So if I'm to open this, it's a comma delimited file. So the values are separated with commas. So the first item, as you can see, it's a point number in this case. Now, as surveyors are collecting or they are picking these points, usually they automate the numbering per se. So when they bring in that information, also I think they also try to set a certain format with which they save that information in. For example, here you have a point number, which makes that a P. Then we have the next one being an easting. Then we have the northing. Then we have the elevation, in this case. Then we have the point description, in this case. So the file format of choice that you're going to be using, you look through. So we have different file formats, and in case you click on one of them, that's how the points are going to be arranged. For example, here you have eastings, northings, and elevation, which is represented in terms of Z. Here they're already showing you that the one is going to be representing the easting. So yeah, it's better if you arrange them according to the format the surveyor arranged them initially when they were picking the points. So in this case, with that information that you've looked at in that text file, realize it was a point, elevations, northing, sorry, points, eastings, northings, elevation, then point description. So I'm going to choose that as my file, sorry, my format for the points, right? It's called PENZD. We all have that. Yeah, it's comma delimited. Yeah, points, eastings, northings, elevations, then description. So once we are done with that, I know most of you are already familiar with the process, so I won't really go through this as fast as possible. Okay? Is everyone there? Yes? So we are going to add these points to a point group, right? Hello? Are we all there? Yes. Okay. We can add this to a point group. If I don't have any point group, okay. So we are going to name this as Mitiana. For us to create a point group, you come and add on this. You click on this add button. You click on this plus sign. Then you type in the name of the point group. Mitiana. This is for, I can say Mitiana Road. Click OK. And click OK. So we have already named the group with which they are going to be transferring these points into. So we have advanced options where they can allow for adjustments in terms of elevation or coordinates. This is sometimes done in reference to the other points. Some of them will be off point in terms of just a small figure that could always make one of the points go off. So they can do that adjustments for you in the software. So you can choose to, if you have perfect point and you're sure the surveyor has done a good job, then you can choose not to put it, or if you're not very sure, then you can choose to highlight it, just in case. Also coordinate transformation in case, but for this format, I don't think it's necessary. Once you are done, then I can click OK. Then we are going to have, in case there is a bit of duplication of point number, then they are going to overlap that. Then you shall click OK to duplicate. So the reason that's why we are having that kind of duplications, because the surveyors that were picking these points, they were named, the point files were named so differently, picked by different surveyors. So each surveyor could have named some points 1, 2, 3, and another and also 1, 2, 3, since they are picking points from different sections. So they are kind of duplicating in terms of point number. But you can allow for that, because all we need is to understand the eastings and the northings for the points. So once it's done importing, then you can click on this icon for zoom extent. So you shall click on zoom extent so that the points that you have generated are able to come through. If you can be able to access your user interface, and you come to the navigation bar, this bar, if this bar is active, that means that the points are done importing. If it's not yet active, it means that it's still importing. So if it's not yet there, per se, mostly also this depends on how fast your computer is. So I don't know if it's active so far, some individuals, or it's not active yet, some individuals. Are we all there? Can we move on? Can we move on? Does everyone have the points? So when you have the file that you've reported in, and those points all concentrate in one area, or it's one dot, I don't know. Because sometimes it can actually appear as one dot if it is zoomed out extensively, right? Because like it's now covered in a large area where it's appearing as if it's one dot. However, if you come to zoom extent, right? If I come to zoom extent, if I'm to click on the zoom extent and doesn't really show me other points, right? And it's still showing me that same dot, that means either all those points have the same eastings and northings. Maybe they only differ in elevation. You get? If it's only just one dot, that means either not zoom out properly, but if for example, if you zoom out to that one point and you find its information on it, right? You might find that actually all the points are having the same eastings and northings concentrated just in one place. Maybe they just have a difference in what? Elevation. Yeah. So do you all have that? Not yet. Hello, is everyone there? I'm getting some error. Panorama window. panorama. Displays it as an error. Does it do anything like in checking?
Sorry?
Doesn't show any importation per se. It doesn't allow you to access the user interface. Does it allow you to utilize the user interface? Or it's a window? I'm going to carry on, but Martin is going to be able to come and address that issue. So is everyone okay yet? My assumption that is everyone almost, not all of us, but some of us are okay. So right now, our point seems so congested because of our scale. So I'm going to change the scale to 1 to 200. So when I change to 1 to 200, as you can see, there's a bit that is congested. Since they are still congested, I'm going to use 1 to 100. Further. So this is one of our points that we have, and as you can see the information and the points, we have the point number, then we have this being the elevation, then we have the point description. Okay? Is everyone on the same page? Do you have the same zoom scale value?
1 to 100.
I'm using 1 to 100. I don't know how your display is, but mine was a bit congested, so I adjusted it accordingly. Still, as you can see, they're a bit still congested. Probably I can still reduce this to 1 to 50. And then, because I want to see them as separate individual points. See, they're a bit overlapping, but it's okay. Hello? Are we all there? Any more issues from this point? Still congested. We okay? Have we reduced that congestion? Mine is 1 to 50. Yeah. Do we all have 1 to 50? Installing the nano. Being installed and complete. And did install and complete the system again AutoCAD. Then I gave him the computer machine. I did a call computer in the bottom gate I know 2018 or whatever that is. On the same point, right? Should I carry on? You good? So we have our file format, as you can see. So we are going to try to edit the display of this our point information and judging on what we want to see. So as you can see, some points are labeled differently. As you can see, some of them are appearing differently. And those that are appearing differently, they have what they call TR. That means that they were meant to be trees. These points were taken to the points of trees. And this effect is called, this is an effect of the description key, which is a setting that you can add in to edit your points as they're being imported in by default. So we are going to look at how to customize the display of our points to what we want. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to highlight one of the points. You can highlight one of our points, right? Then you go to point group properties. Once you highlight one of the points, there is going to be that this menu that opens up. It's a new menu. It's not part of our menu per se, but it's a menu item that is going to open up as a result of highlighting the object of points. Can we be able to see it? So on that menu, in the modification palette, we are going to look at point group properties. We are going to click on point group properties. Then we are going to, as you can see, the name of the point group is called Mitiana Road, just like we had labeled the group initially. You can add descriptions. Maybe you can add that these points were generated as a centerline collection from the Mitiana Road during the preliminary survey. During the preliminary survey process, then you look at the default. These are the default styles. So the point display is customized or displayed according to the point style and the point label style. So what I mean by the point style and point label style, this X that you see, the red X, is the point style. Then the information that follows on that point is called the point label style. They are trying to label these points. So you can control both the display, whatever style that you want, of the point, and then they're also including the label style. So we are going to try to control and see how we can be able to change that point label. So there's already a default list for these point styles that's given to you by default within the software. So once I click say benchmark and I apply to my points before I actually close this toggle, you can also try to click on one of them. Probably one of you can click on, say, hydrants, or you can look through the list and try to see how it's going to affect your points. So as you can see, instead of my X, it has been replaced by a benchmark label. Sorry, a benchmark style. This is a different style. So there are multiple styles. For example, there's one for trees, there's one for wells, water values, hydrants, and pins. You can just choose, depending on how you want to classify your points. Equally, you can actually, you can create your own. Say you can click here, and then you can create a new point label style. Say this time round, you want to call that one, you can call it Mitiana. I can call this Mitiana points. So what is controlling the display of this to look like a benchmark point is called a marker. Like I said, last time it was an X, this X here, but you can actually make it to become a plus sign or a target sign. You can even add some extra information to it. So you can either control the symbol from here and also control the display from this side. So we control both of the color and the symbol using this menu here. So for example, this first one, we can use custom mark, where we can use this. You can add the X, which is a plus sign, the main sign. Then you can add the square and then the circle. Once I click on this, it will go off, but I can add this and it runs. Okay, are we all there? Are we all there? Okay. So that is controlling what you want it to look like. Then I can go to display. Then this display by default is by block, which is influenced by the layer of the points. Remember, each and every object that you're dealing with here is assigned to a certain layer. So once I click on, say, by block, I can control color though by clicking on this black icon, which is a color icon, and say provide this with yellow, and I choose this to be yellow, and also the label to be yellow. And I click OK. So this is now our Mitiana point style that we're going to be using. The marker is a plus, then including these other two. That is the square and the circle. Then I'll click OK. So as you can see, my point style has changed to Mitiana. And then I can apply to see how Mitiana is going to look like in my point style. Are we all there? So once you've applied the setting, you should be able to display something like that, right? Are we there? Some of them. It's okay. It has something to do with the description too. Some of it, the description too is said to be TREE. Yet some people, okay, by default it's supposed to be TR with a star. So we are going to look at description too. Are we done with that? These points are when you apply a certain change, it takes you. Are we there? So now, since we can be able to edit our point style, now you can also look at the label style. For example, the current label style is actually point, elevation, then description. I can choose to only have description only. If I apply that, then whatever information that is here can be able to change instantly. So this is going to turn into only description. You can explore these other different properties, or you can customize in whatever way that you want to have. Depends on the functionality of this data analysis that you're having. That is how you're going to be able to classify the point label style that you're going to choose. So for example, the point labels that we've converted to is description only, right? Have we all applied description only? That informs us that this style only allows for description only to be displayed. So we can also maybe apply elevation and description. Let's see how that looks. So now I have elevation and description in this tab. So you can equally either go and create your own point label style, or you can even edit the one that you're currently having, or equally you can create a copy of the current description. You get? So for this one, instead of creating a new one, I can stick to elevation and description only, Then I go and edit this one. Per se, perhaps you want to change only the color or separate the text by color. You can just try to edit the current one. So the current one, as you can see, we have the point, then you have the elevation, then you have the description. So in this case, you can, if you look at component name, I don't know if you're all here. If I look at this menu bar, okay, first, it has supposed to have elevation and description, right? But where we change where we make most of the adjustments is in layout, where we have component name. So the first component name is point description. The second component name is point elevation, as you can see. So for example, if I want to change the point description by color, I'll come and go to your component name. You choose the point description. Then you move to your text. Then you come to color. And then here is by default is by a certain layer. But I'll click on by layer color. Then there is this icon that pops up. Just appears from nowhere. Once you click here, it will be able to appear. Then I can click on it. Then I can be able to change the color. Let me use cyan in this case. Click OK. As you can see instantly, they will be able to show you a preview of what will happen to your points once you make the changes. So that is in case I want to change the color. In this case, remember our text was already overlapping, right? Since they were very close to one another. If I want to eliminate that, I can choose also to change the height, right? I can choose to change the height of the text by making it smaller. I can choose to, right now we currently have our text height to 2.5. I can choose to make this 1.5%. Now there are a lot of other changes that you can make to this. One, okay, in general we have the general information about this component name is that the component name is called point description. In case I change this to point descript and I allow for a change, automatically here it will also be able to change. So in case you're already making up one of them, you just come to text, add the text, then you change the the name of the composition name here. From here, then you can allow for true visibility. In case you want it to be visible, I can choose to be false, where it's going to be able to be there, but it won't be just visible. So I can choose its visibility from here. I can make that component true. Then the anchor point is going to be the anchor component is going to be the point elevation. It's going to be anchored on the bottom, like you say, it's anchored on the bottom left of the point elevation in this case. Point elevation is this, and point elevation is anchored on the future, which is our point. So since point elevation is already anchored to the future of the point, of the point, which is this, and for it is anchored on the middle right, then our description is then anchored onto the point elevation, and it's at the bottom left. So you can choose to look at either you put it top right, but it will be oriented according to point elevation, which is this naming. In this case, it can still remain as, was it middle right? Bottom left. Okay. You can anchor it to bottom left. It's okay with what we have for now. Then we go to what they call context. So in contents, you have full description here. Once you click on full description, there are those three dots that come up. As I click on those three dots, here they are showing me its full description. So this is the equation that governs what this point is going to be displaying. As you can see, the property from here, the properties can show multiple values. You get? The properties are showing multiple values, and in one of those values we have full description. I can arrange whereby instead of displaying full description, I can choose to use that me I want, for example, in this area to display listings. Then I forward it here. Therefore, this is going to change to listings. So once I click OK, automatically this value changes to an listing value instead of being a description. You get? So, however, since our label style was elevation and description, that's why they chose full description. You get? So once I want to change this back, I'll click, I'll highlight on whatever equation that is there. I'll go to my drop-down panel, then I will choose full description, then I add it by clicking on that arrow. Then I'll click OK. So then we can look at the height. In case you want to orient them, if you want to orient the text, you can choose an angle of 90. Once you choose an angle of 90, as you can see, it has been able to move in that format. However, you want it to be arranged at an angle of 0 so that it can be able to match with the rest of the instrument. Then we have offsets. You can offset this both in the Y and X. I can move this by 10. Let me move it by maybe 2 in the X. So as you can see, it has moved a little bit in the X. You can equally move this in the Y, or it could be a negative direction of Y. If I use probably negative 2 of Y, it can be able to move. That is generally offsetting your text back and forth. But the representation of the anchor point will be the default value with which it is offsetting. So I'm going to put this back to default, which is 0, and also orient this to 0, so that it can go back to its default location, like that. You can also include borders where I can make this true, so that we can have borders on our point description. We can use a different border manner, which is, say, a rounded triangle. You can even add a mask in case you want to hide whatever is behind that border, whatever is behind that text can be hidden, or you want it to be displayed later. So for that background mask, it can either be true or false, depending on what you want to use that text for. So I can use this fold. You can also change the color of the border. By default, it's in that color. You can change this to red and click OK. Then once I'm done and working with my point description, now I can move on to my point elevation. I'm going to do some of the same changes. If I come to my point description, I realize that my text height is 1.5. So I'm going to come to point elevation. Point elevation, automatically I will be affecting this value, which was the first value. If maybe by color, I come and choose, let me choose a green. Okay, let me choose green. As you can see, it has already changed to green. You can even choose to have a different text height. Let me choose 2. Now it is at 2 millimeters. Equally the same thing. You can, now this is called point elevation. Of course, here it's not visible as much. This is called point elevation. For us, we can still edit this text in whatever format that we would like to. By coming to formats, you can change this to Times New Roman and even change it to a certain color by default. So as you can see, this is point elevation, right? Are we all there? I hope everyone is okay. Or you're following, then you'll be able to catch up. I carry on? Okay. So once I change, now I've already changed the text format to New Times New Roman. So this one is quite a bit different from this. The deformation has been able to change. You can also now even choose to display a certain different property of your points that you'd like to arrange or to replace that value with. For now, we can take that. So we can arguably say that we have been able to arrange our point label style, right? So I'll click OK. Once I'm done, I'm going to apply those changes. And then we see how it will be able to display. So as you can see, let me click OK. As you can see, our points have been affected in form of display. Except for these ones. These ones have a different file format they took up, but the rest have been affected, including center line. As you can see, the changes have affected all the points. Okay, so that is how we can control the display of our points, right? So even actually here in settings, if you come to settings, then you go to point settings and you look at point styles. As you can see, for those point styles that we have used before, you already even have Mitiana from here. You can even edit Mitiana in the settings. All the styles that you've looked at, the point styles, are edited from here. Either you can add a new one, or you can edit an existing one. Say Mitiana, the one that you use, you can edit it from here. Then you go back to this same layout that we initially had. Features of that tree. It comes in white.
It comes in white. It doesn't do these other features.
They're all of them the same. But these points display.
The points display. Which ones?
Like, do they come in X? Do they have X? Do they have those listings? They come.
Those are the values that come. But the other features they don't. They are kind of confused. So if you can press it.
We made some edits. We okay? Any questions yet? The font. Okay. So for the font, let me come to my group view properties. The fonts that I changed was for the point label style and specifically elevation, right? So you come to edit the current selection. From the current selection, it's the point elevations, right? This value specifically, the one in green. So when you come to your contents, you click on that you see the three dots. Okay, then there's where you have the properties of that display information. Then there's where you have formats, right? So in formats, you can be able to either justify the alignment of your information, either center to left. The point style that we are using the text style that we are using is standard. And by default, standard is in a different setting. I think it's simplex. Yeah, simplex. So you can choose the font, right? I can actually first highlight the text, then you choose the font of your choice. You can even choose the color by default. Or you can choose this color to be by block, so that when you change the other side, so I click OK, I can change from here. Okay? Has that issue been addressed? Any more questions before we carry on?
There's a problem that these points are this time.
Yeah, people have that same issue. People have that same.
So you're going to just modify it.
I'm thinking that since they're displayed in white, we go and explore the point style itself. From the properties. Okay. Perhaps points style in white. You first can give him so that he can be able to ask him so. They like this. First one.
Yeah.
They like.
Then they want. And then these
Then
pictures
the
are not
display
there.
in what? In white. Like this. Then there is no point description. This is none.
In this one, there's point star. The first star is making created the point star.
Yeah, I got it.
That's why I got this form.
Is that what they have? It is.
It doesn't. It just shows points and elevation. Let's think about a point star.
Yeah, so we're going to move Guys, how many have made some changes on your point styles and label styles? You have all made the changes. I'm being told there are some bit of issues where you have our point styles that are displaying in white and they have a different arrangement. Right? I don't know if we have been able to explore the options of changing the styles. Obviously mine were in a reddish color because by default, that is by layer. The layer for the points by default is in a reddish color. Okay? So equally you do the same thing. Once you want to make the changes, just go to the point group style and you are able to adjust. For example, here most people are running in basic. So our basic style, which is this, just come and edit the current one, do the same issues, do the same things. I can actually just change this display. As long as the point can display, then you can be able to change its properties. Good. So you can change the properties according to what you want, okay? So I'm going to take back our points to the default display and also the default point label style. In this case, I'm going to display the points and description. And I'm going to apply. Are we okay? Any questions so far? My assumption is that every engineer on the front desks have made some of the changes that are very crucial. Huh?
How do I make different points have different signs? For example, I want to treat it a certain way and I want to benchmark it a certain way. Things like that. Because you select a point and you go to the settings and change, all of them change.
Okay. Any more questions? Any questions? Taking back to the original format, let me start with him. Taking back to the original format, I still just put them to default. We remember we had created Mitiana as one of our point styles, but I was trying to refer to our default values. So I took back to basic instead of Mitiana. But once I click on Mitiana and highlight, then I apply that change to our points. Since we had made changes to Mitiana, should be able to apply for the rest of our points. So Mitiana had already made some changes. I turned this X to white and also the marker to appear this way. However, there are also other styles that you can explore. For example, here, these are blocks, which are symbols. You can choose to use one of these. I can choose to use, say, I can use maybe guy poles, right? Is everyone on this same page? Are we all there? What I'm doing is that I'm changing the Mitiana label style, the custom marker to something else. That X that you saw is a marker, and instead of using custom marker, I can use AutoCAD blocks symbols. So that list that you see, each of them is a symbol, including also the tree. You can have a symbol of the tree. There's this also, as you can see, but it's just tinted in white. We have our test bits. We have different styles. So you can explore all these different styles depending on what you want to adjust. So that, for example, for Mitiana, I can choose to use that as a marker. Then I come to my display, then change the color of the marker to, say, purple. I can use purple. Then I click OK. Once I make the application to the changes, as you can see, my marker has changed, right? So even though your display information, the default display of information is different, you can be able to change them as long as you can access the point group properties, and you can be able to change the point styles and the point label styles, okay? I hope we are clear on that. So I'm going to carry on. This is going to be very crucial in the next item. The next item we're going to look at is going to be description keys. Now, description keys are the ones that differentiate what you want to see, and separating one key from the other, or separating point styles from the other. So in description keys, as you can see, the code. So for example, by default, the application of description keys by default, the style that is already there, it shows that every time a person types in tree or TR, that code in terms of description automatically changes to a certain point style, right? So in this case, whatever has TR or tree, because you can have multiple trees of the same nature, so you can have TR1, TR2, TR3. So everything that has TR will be displayed. It's like commanding automatically. Everything that has TR, once you put it in, is going to be displayed differently. You get? So by default, you go to settings. You're in settings, right? In settings, we are looking at points. You come to points. You go to tool space, go to settings, go to points, right? Then you look for description keys. If you were to count from up above, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is the 5th item on that list, right? So once I click on description keys, we already have a default Civil 3D description key list, right? If you don't have it, perhaps you can shall just create a new one. You can always create a new one, but I'm sure everyone has it, right? Please confirm that we all have them. Do not be in Prospector. Prospector is not going to show you anything. You have to be in settings. So I'm hoping that everyone has that list, right? So you right click on that list and you come to edit keys, right? Now in editing to keys, as you can see by default, they said that every code of your description key, right, that has STA, the style that you're going to be using is going to be STA by default. For example, if I bring in my point file and some of them have STA, by default, the point style they're going to be using is going to be STA. The same thing applies with SWMH, which is the storm drainage, sewer, manholes. Right? Then we have the one of tree by default. So it means that if you don't have, sometimes maybe it's not yet applied, but by default they usually prefer or take in that whatever is named TR, right, will be referred to become a tree in terms of the point style. You get? So what they mean by TR with a star is that this star here allows for extra information that comes after the TR. For example, I have tree 1. Tree 1, it can be in full tree 1 as TREE1, right? So that tree 1 starts with the TR and whatever information, whatever letters that come after. Yeah, that can happen. That means that whatever has those variables can be referred to as tree. Then you can still have TR. Some surveyors can use the short form of TR. They'll take TR1, TR2, TR3. So this star allows for other variables that come after the TR. Okay? So as you can see, this one has a point description called tree, right? If you look at other trees, for example, these ones. This one has TR1, this one has TR2, this one has TR3. So that TR with the star allows for other variables, right? So what can we do with that information is that now this same list allows for you to customize your own variables, right? For example, we want to solely identify our center line, right? Our center line to be a bit different. What we can use that information with, that once I'm trying to create my alignment, I want to see my CL or center line points to look different so that they can be easily identified. That I will do, I will just come, right click, and then I create a new one. So as I create a new one, I can easily edit this code. All our center line code, like you saw in our text file, they were all called CL, right? So I'm going to type in CL, and I'm going to add a star. So that means that every point that has CL as a point description, right? It's going to be having I can apply these other two changes. I'm going to display them differently, okay? So, for example, everything that has CL by default so on the style, I'm going to choose a certain style for my center line, right? So I'm going to first mark so that it can be able to display. Here, right? Are you there? Do we all open the list? Not really. So you right click, then you come to edit the keys. I hope you know the location of where the description key is, right? So equally, I can even choose to name them differently in case I want to. You can name them by terms of firm. You get that every time your surveyors have gone to pick points, if it's for prom, I can choose to call this prom. So every time prom is working with surveyors and they have gone to pick points, their styles, or by default, some description keys that they can always arrange our work in. You can communicate with them, you tell them, every time you're picking a center line, pick it as CL. Every time you're picking a tree, pick it as TR, or you're picking it as a tree in full. You get, so that it can be able to match with your description key list. So you can try to customize. It can be a road edge. It can be, in this case, it can be a spot height. And you want to customize the way spot height looks like. They can be buildings, like corner points of the buildings. And you can add different codes for all those different point descriptions. So in this case, we are going to customize center line, right? And we have allowed for a code of CL, and we are going to customize the style of the center line, right? So by default, this default means that the default variables for the style, which was basically the other time, right? While we were looking at the points, that is the default application to the style. However, you can just double click on the default. then come to your point styles, then you look through the list. And one of our lists already have Mitiana per se. Or you can create a new one, whether you can customize your same what? Your center line. And you can probably call this center line. Oh, let me choose one. Or let me use benchmark. Or let me create a new one. And I can call this center line. CL. And my marker for the center line, I can use these blocks, and I look for whatever can be able to represent what my center line is. Okay, let me use benchmark. Then I can choose also the display by color. I can use purple. Let me use purple in this case. It's a better shouting color. So my marker looks like this, and it's called the center line. Then I'll click OK. So now I'm going to have my point style named center line, right? Then I also need to choose the label style. By default, the label styles last time there were elevations and descriptions, right? I can also choose a different format where I'm only displaying perhaps description only. So I can choose description only and say OK. Once I'm done making the changes, you can add the layers. Everything else is set. The rest of the parameters don't really have to affect anything yet. Then I can close my list by clicking this. So now that's my point description list, right? Now how do I apply the changes is that, for example, this is the center line, right? I can highlight the center line, right click. Then I have an option where they say apply description key. Once I click on that, this only has changed to description key, has changed to the formatted description key. Once I come also this side, and even if I highlight all these, right, and I right click and apply description key, to only apply for those that have CL. Have you seen that? You get? So that's why it was able to highlight for only those that had trees and try to give them their different point styles. So, however, if I want to apply this to all of them, once I can just come to my prospector, you come to your point group that you want to apply to, you right click on that point group, then you come to apply description keys. So it's still processing. Once it's done, as you can see, all the center lines have been able to be highlighted differently. All the center lines, now they are very easy to identify. As you can see, all the center lines. Now remember, I added the star, right? That means that whatever comes after center line will be considered. If I added the star, it will only be CL that will be reflected. Yes, that will be affected. So that's what I have. So that means that there is no limit to whatever information that you have. You can analyze your information before, or you can be able to synchronize with your surveyors, then you progress accordingly. So that I can be able to bring in the point files when they are labeled according to your description key. It's far much easier for you to identify or to separate your information accordingly. Do you have any questions so far? Yes. Yes. Any more questions? Because now here we have managed our points accordingly. Once you've managed your points, sometimes these points help you if you're trying to find the center line. In case you're doing your pipeline network, generally, once you're working with points, it's easier once you know how to edit them. Let me try to change my scale. Since I already reduced the height of my values, once I change the scale, perhaps our point descriptions will be affected. Okay? Now it's a bit more visible that way. Okay? I think we have all understood how to edit points. That is how much we can be able to adjust our point style. Okay? So if you don't have any you're supposed to import in our images. You got surfaces.
Surfaces. It's almost done.
Points are done and then move to surfaces. And I wanted to allow for this minutes before I move to surfaces.
Can meet more in this session after 5.
Is everyone still anyone still lagging behind that hasn't made some of the changes?
Yeah, some of us have software issues. Some of the whatever are not able to display.
They're not able to display.
Yeah.
Pick a style. It goes from there.
From my colleagues, they are telling me some.
There could be some issues.
There could be some issues with the software.
Okay. I wanted to use a few minutes to go through one-on-one. For those with issues, please. For those that have understood, you find a person with some issues and then you start moving towards the same endpoint. So for those that haven't yet reached or made some bit of edits on the points, please raise up your hands. For those that haven't really edited anything per se, because they have some luckist in the log. Okay, maybe it's only him. Let me go and attend to him and find out if there are other issues. If it's a software issue, then you can be able to fix that a bit later. Right? Because I remember you had a different version of the software, right? Yeah. I'm going to, no, if we had internet, I was going to just come here and sign in, then display the maps. Because the other images are too huge, especially in loading them.
No, they are not so heavy by then. They are small.
You can easily load them. But
you
how
can
do you
just
load them?
just create a file. Then after you extract it.
Can you do that now? Well, I'm attending this goal.
We shall just show them. It's easy. Just takes a second.
Smart. How is the first day going? But I realized, yeah, if you're going on the PC, you don't have to move around really. Yeah, because keep operating, you don't understand the slides, stuff like that. You're in that group, you're in the response group.
For the second one, when it's what I do this one. For the first one, but then the second one,
You improvise.
we say the practical bit of what
Day to day. Now, how far did this one go?
we have stopped because we are always like within here.
You told me surface.
Yeah, so surface
Yeah, you're doing it points. If you wait for this program tomorrow. I don't know here. No, it's tomorrow is done. Tomorrow is done.
yeah, just take out of the first.
So,
Yeah, try it.
That's what I
Out of time. No, yeah, first with that, first with that.
Yeah.
When it comes in these times, styles get out of time.
Styles for the
Style is now for each and everything you have to do a style. That is the thing.
style for the corridors,
One, right, with all that. Yes.
sub-assemblies. Have you come here?
I don't want to do a third day thing.
That day. Corridors, creating assemblies and designing corridors. I'm sure this will tomorrow after me. Mark my words. Those are moving extra fast.
But because styles take time.
Styles.
Yes.
He hinted on them.
That was wonderful. Each and everything has styles. Points have styles, and it's have styles, and everything. Workshops have styles.
So taking specific to the style for alignments and profiles.
Everything has its own styles. So that is very.
Eddie, I wanted to take a peek what the instructor is saying. This, yeah, a feed. A peek here and a feed.
Now, there's something I was going to do. No.
That's what my friends
Just importing and styling.
when the game supports more than verify language.
So I'm very happy. I'm very happy that at least 90% of the individuals have all the changes that have been made. We are at the closing hour, literally. Our next item is supposed to be surfaces. That's anyway, so we have another file for geolocation and showing of imagery for our project, the imagery of reference, right?
And copy the file.
We are going to copy the file and distribute them as option 1. There is another option that I wanted us to explore for displaying imagery of geolocation for our project. Joshua, is it right? Joshua is running this meeting. Joshua? So it's going to be able to display, going to distribute the different imagery for our projects. These are imagery for reference. I had another option that just requires internet, which I don't know if everyone can be able to access. So the other option is so what are we going to do? We come to our settings, right? Let me first copy the image file.
It was within the other archive I gave you. So I think it's recording.
So we are going to have imagery for displaying for our georeferencing for the project as option 1. The second option I was looking at is for us to explore that geolocation icon, which for you to activate it, you will go to settings. Oh, sorry. So like I said, we are exploring the version where you can be able to display your geolocated maps for the georeferencing your projects. So let me first extend. Okay. So you go to your settings, then you go to drawing settings. Now that drawing settings, we haven't yet named actually the drawing per se. Actually, we are looking at this. Okay. You come to your drawing settings, you right click, you go to edit drawing settings. So when you come to edit drawing settings, this is what you have if you haven't made any changes per se yet. So we look at our units and zones. Our default units of reference is going to be meters. You can be able to change them here in case you want to change either from metrics to imperial. You can change them to feet. Also, our reference in terms of the angular units, you can use either degrees or radians or grads. Also, our conversion for imperial to metrics, which if in case you're trying to reference from 1 meter to feet to meters, you can. This is the international equation they use, showing you that 1 feet equals to 0.3048 meters. Then, as you can see, remember we changed our scale 1 to 1,000. Sorry, from 1,000 to 1 to 50 or 1 to 100. It has been able to display here. You can already change your drawing settings from here, where you can choose to use 1,000 or 1 to 200. Or you can use a custom scale in case you need to. Then we come to zoning. In zoning, we want to now locate our project. Now remember, this project is in Uganda, so you type in U, then they can be able to display Uganda. So we're going to choose Uganda in this case. Then you come to the category. The categories that we have the one of 25 north, 25 south, then 36 north, 36 south. In Uganda, the project location, it's in the south, so I'm going to say the north. I'm going to click on the 36 north. Use that. Are we all there? Hello? Do you all have the same settings before I move on to the next item?
What was scale?
I changed the scale. The scale doesn't really differ as much because here you can see it's 1 to 100. Just in case you want to, you see how the display of your information on the layout is. Remember our first layout was displaying 1 to 1,000, right? So remember then we got comfortable with 1 to 100. Obviously this is the first setting that you do before you actually start any groundworks. So you can first make your changes before you actually import in your points, right? Yeah. So by default it's always 1 to 1,000, though I didn't change it initially. However, when I came in here, it already picked the scale that I had changed to. So you can even have a custom scale. For example, 1 to 250. You can also have that. So I hope everyone has the same variables like I do. We all have the same values. This is supposed to be 36 north, and it's supposed to have Uganda. Okay? We're good to go? Then we go into transformation. This applies in case you want to actually geolocate some things yourself and you do manual allocation, which is not necessary in this case. Then we look at object layers. Now, like I said, each object that you create in here has a layer that is by default assigned to, including the alignment. It's referred to a layer called C-Rod. Alignment labeling, alignment tables are also referred to a certain layer. So in case by default you want to change those layers to a specific setting, this is where you change them from. But if you're already okay with the default layer styles, then you move on. Then we have abbreviations. These are abbreviations that we are going to be interacting with. And like for example, for the alignment geometry, they can tell you that maybe at the end of the alignment, instead of typing in the whole word end of the alignment, they are going to be showing you EP. So in case you've drawn your alignment and at the end they have indicated EP, that means that it's an end of what? end of the alignment here. So these are just abbreviations they can probably use within your drawing, but they mean something else different. So they give you a list here that you can always refer to, and the list covers a lot of abbreviations with which they try to reference while you're creating some of these objects. Then you have ambient settings. Ambient settings is where you can easily channel some of your settings from. For example, time. You want your time by default to be in this is in minutes. Once I click on this, on minutes, and I go to my list, you find that I can actually choose this to be either in days or in years, depending on what I want to achieve. There are units like, say, unit of distance. Now, instead of having metrics, for example, if I receive a drawing that is in imperial, that means it's in feet, yards, inches, and whatever. I can just come to my ambient settings for the drawing settings and can change this to meters. You get? So that now everything that is being displayed in there can be converted to meters, so that I'm only working with meters. So the same with dimensions. Dimensions are usually provided in millimeters. The coordinates are done the same, including the elevations here. Every time you're calculating an area, it is in square meters. The other variables, like if you want to create it in square feet, or acres, or square kilometers, or square miles. The same with volume, the same with speed. You can choose to use your design speed to be in feet per second or miles per hour. We have other things like the direction, in case you're dealing with a drawing where the person has different units. And for example, direction is in a different unit, you can be able to change them from here. Generally, all those are the different items that you can look at for you to set your drawing properly. So once I'm done with that, I can now click OK. And once you are done applying that, once you're done applying that, automatically the geolocation item on the menu bar will be able to show up. It's until you make the changes on the drawing settings, that's when it can be able to show up. So once I have this, I can be able to add on my maps. So I can click on aerial map. However, they need me to confirm, and also it requires you to sign in into your Autodesk account. But I need to first confirm if my network is okay. So there's no network. I don't know which hotel we're using. Let me first confirm if actually this works. So those that can be able to access the network, you can try signing in. Let me see if we can be able to continue from there. Okay. So I'm going to try this again. Okay. So for me to be able to access that information, it's a requirement for you to sign into your Autodesk account. I created an Autodesk account back in the day while I was still a student, so that account has been carried on. So I'm going to sign in. For those with, because I'm sure the internet is really, really very slow. maybe for those with some data, you can try hotspotting your PCs. Doesn't really take a lot of data. Do you have some data? Oh, what's it choose? I know. I wanted to just do this and then it was okay. We made the drawing edits, drawing settings edits, right? We all have the geolocation showing up, right? For those that don't have, please raise your hands. We all have the geolocation showing up. It's not on. Is it displayed on the menu bar? Is it there? This Wi-Fi. So there were two options. I realized the Wi-Fi was not okay, so I let the gentleman distribute our already captured images for the project. So for those that already have the files for the captured images, it's okay. Those that don't have, please raise your hand so that they can easily identify you. There are some geolocation images, a file that we are supposed to be having and adding into our drawing. So if you don't have it, it was a missing file in that folder. Yeah. So like I said, there are two alternatives. There's already downloaded image, then there is an online option of doing that, but the online option requires when you have stable internet. Okay, so which I don't really have per se right now. So that's why I was opting for us to go for the manual version. The gentleman in the back with the glasses. Yeah. No, don't take time. No, don't take time on them. The good thing I've realized, you see when I was editing the problem is that they all have different speeds. They are not picking generally, but they are computer speed. Right, so now you can first. This time around, you skip that person. I go to the next one. That one we can use with my phone. Okay.
Just give them the phone like they'll be much faster.
Can you load those images here so that we can see?
This would be different.
So Martin is going to be able to load the images, the ones that we had initially downloaded for our project, the high resolution images. So you just keep your eyes on the presentation as we carry on.
Because the PC, my office PC takes a second. Let's download this one. This. There's some changes here. There is one combined one. So the big file. Yeah, mas. One more is two pictures.
That's a piece of data.
was looking at this thing you said. I'm wondering when you talk about these things, I'm saying there is influence. So, what is the influence?
This one there. This one we're done with it. Oh, so after 2023.
Instead,
I stopped by 2021.
I thought I wanted to go back 2018.
Yeah, 2021 is now.
It's Kawaii. Those ones were a bit unstable. They were a bit having
It's good, but that's.
You use it, 27.
My boss uses it.
I have to revert to 18.
But they all 718. From 18 to 23, 718.
The 718.
Yeah.
18 was so unstable.
2020
was
2020. 21
I'm downloaded 23, but I haven't used it. 24.
Okay, just double the type of this setup.
I've been meaning to ask how many people
They were like 6 days.
6 days.
Something, yeah.
So many. I called you the other time. There were like 3 people who wanted mine. Still there, the STEM people.
Okay, you go someone to do it. Some guy. Was there in the training, but
Who had done some of it already with us. But they came from the Bootcamp. Experience. So if you can,
I'm going to get my days.
we almost scrapped it because people are buying. I was hoping to be the one with master for my books.
I don't. But what we can do, we can get a trial.
But he was proposing the way then, I first stop it.